Hey there, YouTube. It's another exciting episode of Guess What? TeardownTube. And this week I got this really cheap, it's a Gemei branded MP4 player that, they churn out a ton of these made in China MP4 players. And this one is actually one of the better cheap things that I've actually purchased. It only came out to like 30 bucks or so, but I mean, this plays almost every file format that I throw at it. Not everyone, but it does play a lot of them. It's got a standard, the same size screen, 4.3-inch screen that the PSP uses. It's like 470 by 240 or something like that resolution, so it's fine. I mean, you're not going to be able to be watching, HD movies on this, but I bought this a few years back, but back then that was even pretty cheap there. On the sides, you got your headphone jack, your it's marked, ironically enough, HD TV, but it's a standard 3.5 millimeter, the 4-pole mini jack for video out and audio out. You've got a micro SD card slot, which is interestingly enough inserted upside down. You've got your microphone little hole there, and on the top are where all the buttons are. You've got your power on, off, play, pause, forward, rewind, reset in case it crashes, which it does tend to fairly often, but most of the time just pressing and holding the power will just reset it. Volume up, down, and finally the return button. I'm sorry if it's a little bit bright in here, kind of going haywire, but it should get a little bit better. The hold switch is on the side here, and I accidentally broke that. I'll tell you why and how once I open this and show you the internal construction. You've got a mini USB port as well as a standard DC 5-volt input right there. So I'll get down with the teardown right now. And one thing to know, I've taken this apart a few times. There are actually little rubber feet in there that you need to pry out with a pocket knife or a small screwdriver or something. Get in there, but I already did the trouble because that took me a few minutes to get that out. Now let's get on with let's see, get a screwdriver here. I don't know, before I always had the screwdrivers in the background here somewhere, but I noticed that it was focusing on that instead of what I actually wanted to focus on. So I just moved my screwdriver set off to the side just so that it wouldn't, interfere. Okay, one down. I really love cheap stuff like this. I know I'm not buying it for the quality. I'm buying it because it's pretty much disposable. Sometimes I'll just buy stuff like this just to take apart or for parts. Like, for instance, this screen is just a standard screen. You can use it for your own projects and whatnot, which is pretty cool. So let's get this sucker open. Just 4 screws, 1 in each corner. Nothing complicated. Open this one. And we're pretty much in. Just long fingernails help, or guitar pick. I don't like using flathead screwdrivers just so that I don't mar the plastic. But I believe there are only like 2 retaining clips, if that. So just want to get in there with your fingernails and start trying to pry. Come on. I might actually need to get a pry tool. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Brought these little plastic iPod pry tools. Fingernails apparently aren't long enough. So you just want to get in there with the seam until you hear a few clicks right there. And I would remove it from the side with the hold switch as opposed to the other side. Let me take out the card just so it doesn't get damaged. Because the headphone jacks actually protrude through that plastic. There we go. Another clip disengaged. Don't turn it on. There we go. So close I can feel it. Let me adjust the camera a bit. Ah, it's being annoying. Just so I can get a better frame in here. Uh-oh. There we go. I think I lost something. Oh, yeah, the reset button always comes out. Pain in the butt. Okay. So you don't want to lift just straight off because you'll notice, hey, there's a lithium polymer battery in there and there's no socket soldered directly to the main board. So you're going to want to be careful, as well as the speaker. Now, I was interested to see that there are two speaker grills here, and I don't know why I assumed, but I mean, I assumed just looking at them, hey, stereo speakers, you know, it wouldn't be that difficult. Open it up. Nope, you only got one speaker. Apparently they cheaped out there. That's why it was so cheap. Probably one of the cost savings that they did. You can, however, insert another speaker, and because the audio amplifier chip is right there, you can zoom in there, under magnifying glass, look at the model number, order another one, and you just fill. This is the spot for that, and you just fill with passives, and you can solder your own speaker in there if you really wanted stereo listening. But I mean, the one speaker is enough for me. If I'm just using this, you know, just watching videos every once in a while, if that. But now, since I got my my smartphone, this is kind of obsolete, so I thought I'd do a teardown anyway. You've got your standard lithium polymer battery. It was made in March 17, 2011. Not that old. Marked as 1200 mAh, 3.7 volts. I don't know. Usually batteries I get from China, or in products from China, I wouldn't trust them further than I can throw them. And let's see. Other than that, you've got your ribbon cable coming from the LCD screen. You'll notice. Let's see if we can get in there. 4 wires right in here. There's a smaller sub ribbon cable. That's for the backlights, LED backlight. And you've got your passives, and I believe I stuck this tape over it because the Captain tape was actually peeling off a little bit. I just wanted to protect it. So let's get going then. This is my my rant for devices like this. You got to be careful. The little surface mount switch for the hold switch right here should have a plastic piece protruding, but you might not be able to see, but it's actually missing that piece. Now, the annoying thing is, when I was reassembling this last time I took it apart, I didn't make sure that this outer switch was in the same position as this one. So when I put it back together and I flipped the switch, it snapped off that little plastic actuator. And so now it's permanently stuck in the unlocked position, which is not a problem for me, but one day I might just use my heat gun, pull this guy off, and then stick my replacement one on, just because. But you got to be careful when taking things apart and putting things together that use these surface mount switches right here. Same problem with the NDS Lite. A lot of people have snapped the power switch on that, which is worse because then you can't turn the thing on. You got your USB DC right here. Lots of caps right there for the supply rails. Let's see. It's annoying because there's no socket, so you can't just kind of pull this battery off. It's stuck on there with adhesive, and I don't want to pry. You've got, you can tell that this section right here is for the LCD supply bias. You can see an inductor there, a small SOT23 chip, which is probably going to be the DC-DC generator for, usually LCDs require like 12 volts or so for biasing, not just the logic signaling. And then you've got, this is a 4 gig unit, so you've got a Samsung 4 gig surface mount chip right here. And then, let me go and pull off the ribbon cable. It's just a ZIF, so you got to pull out the 2 locking bars very carefully. Very carefully, I said. I almost pulled out that piece, damn. Okay. Then, gently, I know I really shouldn't be using metal around it while it's still being powered, You can just lift out this little guy right here. Let me pull out the circuit board while I'm at it. There are, if you look carefully, 1, 2, 3, 4 screws that you need to remove in order to lift out the circuit board. I really could have used a pair of tweezers. Oh well, magnetized screwdriver works. First it's too bright, now it's not bright enough. Jeez, I can't get a break today, can I? I was surprised though, this is actually not that bad quality for the money that I paid. I mean, it's not the best, but it is nowhere near the worst. Okay, so now that we've got those 4 screws out, you can actually lift this circuit board out, but keep in mind that these two, the headphone jacks are through the bezel, so you're going to have to lift from the hold switch side. There are 2 tabs right here holding this sucker together, so you're going to want to carefully, lift up. Come on. Okay. And finally there's one more tab here. Just very carefully lift and then pull the case out a little bit to the right, and then you can remove the LCD there. Now you'll notice, as with any cheap design, it's a double-sided board, but there are no components on this side, which is the cheapest way to go. This way you can reflow it all at once, pretty much, and then just hand solder any either through-hole parts or you know, the wires for the battery and the speaker. Cheapest way to go. Here you'll notice the ATJ2273B. This is the main processor on board. I assume that it also has it also has the hardware decoding, probably for the different codecs. I was just thinking that this was the, I said that this was probably the 4 gigs of NAND. I'm actually thinking this Hynix chip right here, this is a more appropriate package for RAM. This is usually what you see. This is probably the NAND memory, and this guy is probably like an external flash chip which holds the firmware for the device, you know, that the processor runs. You'll see a local clock right here for the processor. And finally, some more inductors. You've got your speaker amp, your 32 kilohertz clock crystal for the timekeeping, and you've got your micro SD card slot and your little condenser mic right there. You'll notice that a lot of designs do this. They'll design the entire PCB, but they'll leave out certain features on lower end models, or you know, maybe it's just they figure it's not cost effective or whatever. So you'll notice 2 small surface mount pads right in here with no chip populated on them. And as far as I can speculate, I don't know what the heck they would do there. Because one, you can see a trace leading off to one of the headphone jack there, but I can't quite tell just by looking at it what the heck it's doing. This guy, just looking at the small package type, I would assume maybe that might be like an FM radio chip if they, you know, added the firmware in for that. But other than that, pure speculation. You've got each of the buttons here. You can see small pull-up or pull-down resistors mounted near them, and that's pretty much it. This is very simplistic. It's just the main processor, the external probably EEPROM chip that holds the firmware, your NAND flash that holds all your music, videos, whatever you put on the device, and an audio amp, and that's pretty much it. And everything is integrated for the main processor. It directly accesses the SD card. You know, it's not really much to it, and just a LCD driver right there. that's pretty much why I got this guy for about, you know, 30 bucks or so. So let's see the front bezel. I haven't pulled this out to show you, but it's the LCD screen. This is just pretty much your run-of-the-mill 4.3-inch screen here. I actually haven't checked, but it might be pin-for-pin compatible with the PSP screen, so you might be able to just drop this sucker in if you wanted to. These screens are everywhere. They're dirt cheap nowadays. But I'm not going to be tearing this open because light boxes are a pain to put back together, and if you get dust in it, you'll see a speck on the screen and whatnot. It's just too much of a pain. But if you did want to get into here, there are metal retaining clips, 2 on each side all around the unit, that you need to get in there with a pocket knife and pry up, just not pry up, but stick in just to separate enough to pull off the top bezel. And then the glass is going to be directly on top. You want to carefully lift that up, and then the light box will be underneath with a few more clasps for the white plastic that you need to remove the back metal bezel. And then you'll be able to access all the diffusers, the light box, everything like that. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a really simple device. Let's get ahead. We're already at 16 minutes. Try to get this sucker back together as soon as possible without killing anything, preferably. I mean, it'd be nice. You could dream. I usually don't break things. And again, I'm usually doing this alone in my room without anyone watching. So, there we go. Now let's get our screws in. I love the design simplicity, and plus, like, I haven't even tried to, but I'm sure if you get the datasheet for the main processor chip, it's probably a system on chip. You could actually probably write your own firmware. I don't see why you couldn't if you know, if you solder on like a in-system serial program or whatnot. The main board down, one more screw. I'm gonna have to fix that hold switch one of these days. Not that I ever use this anymore, but I mean, just because. I like fixing stuff. Okay, everything back. Make sure the ZIF latch is out. Reinsert, make sure it's evenly in there. And all the tabs. And it should be seated correctly now. Okay. Now's the hard part where I try to juggle holding the hold switch or the reset switch in while clasping everything together. Freaking acrobatics. Come on. Come on. Okay. Sorry. Oh, come on, is it so hard? This damn reset switch always pisses me off. Okay, and you just clasp, you snap all the clips on the side there. And way before this point, when we were putting in that board, we would have made sure as heck that the two switches, the outer switch and the inner one, were aligned correctly. Otherwise, now would be the point where you break it when you try to test it. But, yeah, let's get these 4 corner screws in. And after this point, you would reinsert the, well, if you wanted to, the rubber little, I don't even know what their purpose. They're not really feet because they don't extend beyond the outside of the case. So I guess just to protect against dust or to try to keep people like me out who want to see the insides. But I mean, they utterly failed on that account. My videos just keep getting longer and longer. Oh well. I don't know, I like rambling while I'm doing stuff. I either usually have music in the background running, but I mean, it might be kind of distracting. Let's reinsert this guy. And it's really annoying because if you're not careful, it can actually fling out the card. It's a micro SD card, you know, slingshot or whatnot. I actually lost a card because of that. It got stuck underneath, like, my bed somewhere. It fell down the side of the wall. Just to show you guys that it still works. Ta-da! And every single time you turn it on or whatever, it always pops up with SD card in. I know it's in. There's an icon there, and I can see it right there. Everything works. Buttons are really noisy and clicky, but what are you gonna do? And as you can see, random G4 video I've got on here, but everything works. And that's pretty much it. Battery life's actually pretty good for this guy. All in all, I'm happy with. That was at the time that was a pretty good $30 well spent. Plus, you know, now that I don't really need it, I can modify it, hack it, do whatever the heck I want with it. But so I was really surprised. This company, apparently they make a lot of MP3 players. It's Gemei, it's called. In China, you know, they make a lot of MP3 players, and they're actually a level above most of the cheap crap that comes out of there. So I was actually pretty surprised. I've taken apart a lot of really crappy things that I bought for real cheap on eBay. But yeah, I'll see you guys next week. I gotta dig something else out. I have a few big things to take apart, but I gotta figure out how the heck I'm gonna film it and whatnot. Because I like the camera right in front of me so I can see what I'm doing. But it's not really gonna work if it's something really large that I'm taking apart. But anyway, I'll see you guys next week. Stay classy.